let's get to some good, okay? Some more positive.
We like good. We like positivity.
Yay! The Cardinals blew out the Rams on Sunday. Not yay for the Rams, but good for the Cardinals. Kyler Murray went 5 for 5 on throws 20 or more yards downfield on Sunday, including 3 for 3 with 2 touchdowns to Marvin Harrison Jr. That's a far cry from Murray's deep passing last year. He completed just 9 of 28 attempts for 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions last season. Here's Harrison Jr. on their performance Sunday.
Not gonna lie to you, I think I saw Kyler's stat line. He has 4 incompletions, all were to me. So I'm not very happy about that. We definitely gotta get that fixed. His skill set and his ability, he can do everything on the football field. Obviously from in the pocket, extended the play. I think I do a good job of getting myself open when the play breaks down. Obviously that's one of his best abilities. Obviously in the pocket, having everything on time. But I'm a pretty good route runner, get open on time and on schedule, and we kind of just do our thing from there.
Marvin, you're not just pretty good. Like, you're really good. You're great. Hawk, we saw the potential of this duo on Sunday. What did you see from the rookie receiver?
Yeah, it's exactly what you said. He is a special player. And when he was coming out in the draft, everybody talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. being #1. It's because he was coming in because he already seen like a 4-year NFL vet.
Yeah.
Look at these 3 plays. These are the 3 offensive plays back to back to back for the Cardinals. You got a touchdown where he drags the feet. Incredible hand-eye coordination. Obviously, the off-script play where he jumps from the 5 and looks like Michael Jordan. Those are things you can't teach. And then there was a back shoulder fade, the very next play where he's just going up with incredible ball skills. Like, this is why Marvin Harrison Jr. was a cut above the rest of other wide receivers in this draft who were also really good because he comes in ready-baked offense and he has a lot of Larry Fitzgerald to him.
I thought Kyler's tape was top 5 player in the league on Sunday. I've said that a couple times since Sunday. I was that impressed. One, Kyler's always struggled for me with like trying to get through progressions, 1 to 2 to 3, and not running around. And I thought some of the stuff that he did in the pocket of allowing the defense to flow and get to 1, get to 2, to get to 3, and check a ball down, I thought he was masterful in the play action game, something that, again, has been peaks and valleys in his career, the consistency of it. And then I'd say the third thing was he was really good at what throw was needed for what route. Like sometimes it was a touch throw over backers. Sometimes it was a drilled throw underneath. Sometimes it was stuff on the move where he had to make sure that there was a little bit more space to throw a football and it was kind of firm. I think like watching that growth, that's the thing I've always wanted for Kyler is like shows growth. There's instead of the roller coaster, essentially, I think there's a lot of growth right now in his game in comparison to what we saw in his first couple years.
I feel like this offense this weekend delivered on the promise of what we thought it could be last year in the second half when Kyler came back. Because last year, in the second half, not a lot of people watched the Arizona Cardinals, but if they did, they saw a dominant running team out of 12 and 13 personnel. And we watched that and we thought, man, if they could just throw it out of those looks, this offense is going to be a problem. And that's what it was on Sunday. Almost all those explosives were out of 13 personnel, guys. And they had the Rams in base, meaning four defensive backs on the field every single time. To me, that ability to compromise defenses because of what a load you are on the ground, and now you've got a deep threat and a quarterback who's connecting deep to him.
You know what else it makes me think,
that
MK?
is tricky.
The 13 personnel point. When you have the 13 personnel on the field and the defense plays base, so you only have 4 athletes, high-end, speedy athletes on the field, also so many of the broken plays. So many of the scramble plays still has 7 bigger people in coverage and 4 athletes really as far as like coverage people.
McBride is the one who's going to benefit because he's really good at those scramble drills, and more often than not, I think one of them he was on, Roseman was on him, the linebacker, and that's a mismatch.
Hawk, I realize that we're saying Marvin Harrison Jr. is so incredibly talented, but just quickly, do you think if teams start to figure out that, you know, it's just all going to him, he can stand up to that and deal with double, triple teams?
Yeah, that's what makes him special. It's not, his ability is not schematic. It's not like he's being put in certain situations. They know he's the #1 guy. They're the guy that they're trying to take away. His ability is just a cut above, and he's very smart. A lot of young receivers, even if you're making plays, Dan knows this, there's still, you know, we looked at it with Keon Coleman, right? He's making great catches.
Intellect element.
Hey, you know, get vertical here. Make sure you're getting the most yards. In the red zone, just turn around and get what you can get because everything happens faster. Marvin Harrison is already doing that, and we're 2 weeks into his career.
And Murray also finished with a perfect passer rating, so that helps too. New on NFL Live from Adam Schefter, Colts placing standout DT DeForest Buckner on injured reserve, sidelining him for a minimum of 4 games. Something to keep an eye on there too for Indy. We talked about some of the offensive adjustments. adjustments that need to be made. All right, get around it, which if anyone can do it, he can.
No doubt.
Amina, you mentioned the Rams. The 49ers aren't the only banged-up team in the NFC West. We found out yesterday that the Rams wide receiver Cooper Kupp will miss, quote, an extended period of time with a left ankle sprain. The hits keep coming for L.A. Kupp, Jonah Jackson, and John Johnson, the third, were all injured in week 2. That's on top of Puka Nacua, Darius Williams, Steve Avila, Joe Noteboom, and Tyler Higbee. Dan, where do the Rams go from here? We heard Graz saying earlier it's like ludicrous everything they're dealing with right now.
How real is it, the conversation of can we and will we trade Matthew Stafford in 2 weeks?
You're saying just reset and start over.
Wow.
Okay, so all those names, 4 out of 5 starting offensive linemen, the 2 wide receivers, some defensive people. If you sit down as an organization and say those are extended period of times that is going to be missed, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks, your season is realistically done. Yep. It just realistically is. Then you have this quarterback that, you know, it felt like almost an all-in year type of season, maybe next year as well. If you're sitting there with that extended period of time, I do think it's worth sitting down as an organization and saying, how real is this for us?
Nina, where?
Well, I think that there needs to be a little bit of an evaluation period with regards to some of these offensive linemen coming back. Havenstein's coming back from the injury. You're going to get your starting left tackle back, Alaric Johnson, who was suspended the first 2 games. But the interior of that offensive line being so damaged.
The information of that, the time of those injuries is everything.
It's going to matter a lot, whether or not you can get a little bit healthier, because they can't run their run game with this IOL, and Stafford certainly needs more protection. If they were to make that decision, then it's okay, what teams are we talking about? I want to pitch one to you guys. The Raiders? I'm just, so watching the first 2 weeks, that is a very, very good defense.
Very good.
Devontae Adams is still one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Yeah. Brock Bowers looks like a dude. Yep. He does. Imagine Matthew Stafford. I'm just throwing it out.
I'm not. You don't like Devontae coming to L.A.?
Oh, flipping it?
See, but here's the thing. I like the Raiders. I do. I like the Raiders. I think that their offensive line is good enough. Is Luke Getsy, like creativity-wise, kind of what Stafford likes?
I mean, Dan, you know Stafford. What do you think?
Legit.
Again, I think there was this expectation this year in L.A. that it was like an all-in season. They honestly believed that they were going to be good enough to go play with anybody and beat anybody. And if those injuries string out in 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks, and you get into the back end of October, if the organization goes to the quarterback and says, hey, this is the situation, the quarterback might sit there. Matthew's 40 or 38. He doesn't want to sit behind an offensive line and just get destroyed all game without guys to throw to that are high end.
And that's the problem, that even if they figure out the offensive line stuff, they don't have enough on the outside to be a balanced offense without Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. And I know we went through this process last year, and that's how Puka Nacua was born. But it's like Mina Kimes. You can find one, you're not going to find 2 of them. So there's not. Looking at this roster, though, like I like what Tyler Johnson did in week 1.
But he's the 4th piece, right?
Exactly.
Whittington, the 4th or 5th piece. Kobe Parkinson, the 4th or 5th piece.
Being 1 or 2 makes a complete difference.
Kupp and Nacua are so unique. Like, you know what I noticed this week? Puka's blocking is really missed.
Oh, he's
we think about him as a receiver and everything he does, but watching that run game, it's just not the same without those receivers blocking the way they do.
That's the thing. It's a double whammy. It's the skill group and the offensive line that are, again, you could be talking back end of October, but till they get somewhat whole.
I mean, Mina, you could pitch me on anything and I would agree, but that was a great pitch. Imagining Stafford with those Raiders, my goodness. All right, let's see who.
It's not crazy at all.
The Falcons still ran a lot of shotgun and pistol in week 2. We wondered how much they would use, but Cousins was much better passing out of those formations in the win on Monday Night Football. He averaged 9.5 yards per attempt and threw 2 touchdowns. His completion percentage over expectation was +9%, according to Next Gen Stats, up from -6 in week 1. Dan, you were critical of the Falcons' offense after week 1.
We're an under center show, okay? We're not a fan of the gun and the pistol, just so we're clear.
I'm aware, okay? So go ahead on what improvements you saw week 2.
Dude, Bijan Robinson looked like a guy that is going to be a superstar in this scheme, finally. And it's really the zone scheme. They got a zone offensive line, zone scheme, weak zone. The double teams from the left tackle, left guard, and center. This was the theme last night. Motion the receiver over on the backside. And look at how all this offensive line is working and as one, constantly stretching this defensive line on horse. This is all in the first half. It's all the same look. It's the tight end backside and the double teams front side, and you just got to watch how both these backs Bijan and Algier just press the hole. And I think that Zach Robinson, who's their offensive coordinator, putting Kirk underneath the center, even with these defensive ends maybe pirating a little bit, the vision and ability for these backs to constantly push outside and stress. The theme of the night was outside zone for this. I mean, this cut is lovely by these backs, and that hole is gashing. I think Bijan, what did we say? He wanted 150 yards of total scrimmage.
You said if they were going to win, he needed at least 150 yards.
Yeah, they got $125 on the ground and another 20 through the air or something like that. Yeah. If Atlanta runs the football like that in their zone scheme, that offense is going to be very difficult to contend with.
And now imagine if Kirk starts connecting on the under center play action, which he had 8 passing attempts from under center, all play action. It looked okay. I'm not going to lie and say that he looked entirely comfortable back there, but I will say this. As the football game went on, he looked more and more comfortable, and I did think it was notable that in the second half in particular, he started driving it a little bit more outside the numbers, obviously in the final drive. Some of that is aided by the situation and the way the defense was playing him, but some of it I also felt like Kirk Cousins thinking, hey, man, I got to win this game. I'm not worrying about, my leg right now. I am just throwing the ball. And if he can continue building on that, off of that under center outside zone run game, there is real potential there for an explosive play action passing attack.
I love that, Nina. And I think Zach Robinson called a game that was conducive for that exact mindset. Yeah.